Hi, everybody, and welcome to a very brief but important episode of Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I only have a few minutes to record today's episode, and that is because I was just driving to the studio and this thought popped into my head. And so I had just a little bit of time before I need to walk into the studio and thought, I'm going to sit down and record this while it is most fresh in my mind. And I feel that's so important and so true for so many things that we do. Like if we feel inspiration, like I mentioned in episode 70, we really need to find ways to act on it and to follow that feeling, because if it's inspired content, like I said, I feel it holds so much more value, and you are also in turn so much more invested in it. So the thought that came to me while driving is, in order to teach and to guide the work, you also need to practice the work. And I was thinking of this in relation to when I was doing my Pilates certification. And when I was going through that, I was teaching so much. Like it wasn't just Pilates, it was also dance. Like I still had my full schedule. I still had everything else going on, and I had to add observation hours in. I had to add teaching hours in. I had to do all of this stuff that my own personal practice, like if you asked me, did you do your Pilates mat work today or even in this week? Most of the time the answer was no, because I was just doing so much with the teaching that I forgot to take time to do the practice myself. And I was thinking about this on the way to the studio, like I said today, and it really makes me think about when you get to a certain place in your career and we are, like I said, the teachers, the guiding force behind this work. If we're not practicing it in some way, whether it's dance or movement or however you want to look at it, a personal practice for your own self, I think it's really hard, because we are guiding these dancers to find the joy, the love, and the feeling behind the movement that we're teaching. And it's so important for us to remind ourselves of that as well, because I always love being a student. Like, even if it's not a movement class, say if it's like a lecture-based class or something that I find online or a book to read, I love expanding my knowledge. And I feel like so many teachers are that way as well. So you probably may relate to that. But really thinking on that phrase, in order to teach and guide the work, you must practice the work. And so it might not be you getting to a dance class every week. It might be getting to a dance class once in a while. And it might not even be a dance class. But I feel it's so important, because whenever I take a movement class of any kind, even if it's like a fitness class or, something like that, I find so much inspiration to take into my class. And even if it's like a workout video on YouTube, truly and honestly, sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, this conditioning movement would be really helpful for dancers in executing this or whatnot, So I really feel that if we allow ourselves to just teach and teach and teach, then we are missing out on that joy and fulfillment that the practice once gave us. And if we are in joy, and if we are in with that passion that is ours, that's going to just spill over into our classes. And I know the difference between taking a teacher who exudes passion for what they do and with a teacher who just like doesn't want to be there, lacks, excitement, lacks that spark. And I feel that we would all want to be the teacher that has the spark. And so today's thought, like I said, it was just a quick one, but I felt it was really important because sometimes too, when we get to a certain age, and I'll be completely honest with this, 100%, sometimes it's incredibly nerve-wracking to think of going into a class and not knowing the movement, not knowing the teacher. I haven't danced in a while. How is my body going to react to this? All of that. And I understand that. And some people would say it doesn't matter. You go in there and move and you do what you do and you are a dance teacher. You should be able to do this. But it's totally different, because, we're probably going to be a little bit hard and critical of ourselves as well when we're thinking about these new movement classes. But if you can go into it in a way with just the mindset of for you, for yourself, not for anybody else in the classroom, just as we would encourage our own dancers, then maybe releasing some of that pressure is going to help you to get into that class, to get into that movement style or whatnot, whatever it is, even like I said, if it's a fitness class. And just reminding yourself of the joy of being the student. Like I said, it could also be like an online lecture. If you find like a anything. Sometimes there are, on Instagram, some dance professionals will do lives or chats or talks or things like that, or, YouTube videos of instructional content and things like that, if you'd rather and prefer to do it in the comfort of your own home to start. But just thinking about, you became a teacher once because you loved the art and you loved the craft and you loved everything that encompassed that. So much so that you wanted to inspire and push the next generation of dancers. So checking in with yourself. When was the last time that you practiced the art and the craft and the work that you do? And not being afraid to going ahead and taking that jump, to trying something new, and to allowing yourself to expand your mind and in turn expand what you are bringing into your classroom. And if I can find any resources of this, like free classes, free lectures, things like that, sites that might offer that, I'm going to share it over on Dance Teacher Pep Talk Instagram page, because maybe there will be some fresh ideas there for you that you could jump into and see if that is for you and to help you on this idea. So I want to thank you so much for listening to today's little brief episode. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and thank you so much for listening.